What's up YouTube, and welcome to the Anabolic Outpost. And today I will be showing off this 5-layer overnight oats recipe that I have been growing to love for a variety of different reasons. If you are a regular viewer of this channel, in other videos I have explained why I love oats so much, and that is really reflected in the amount of videos I have that have oats in them. The second reason why I've been liking this so much is because it is super simple to just make at the beginning of the week, and then you have your meal prepped out for the rest of the week. If you did multiply this recipe, you could easily have your breakfast straightened out for the entire week in less than a half hour. And also, I just think that this recipe is incredibly unique. With the different layers that are in there, it's like you're getting a different bite of flavor each time. And for those reasons, I have been using this as my pre-workout meal. Like I mentioned before, when I wake up and I want something quick before I go to the gym, and then I could have a bigger breakfast when I get home for a post-workout meal. But of course, you could eat it whenever you want, as you see fit. It's all in your best judgment. Enough talking already, let me show you the ingredients that you will need to make this recipe. The first ingredient is going to be the protein powder. And I didn't have my vanilla protein powder tub pictured, but you will want to have 2 different flavors for the 2 different types of layers there are in this dish. You could continue with the chocolate and vanilla theme, but I've made this with many different combinations of flavors. The next ingredient is going to be oats, and there's so many different types, it doesn't really matter what type you get, but personally I like the old-fashioned oats. Next ingredient is going to be milk. I do use a fat-free dairy milk version, but you could use like an almond milk or oat milk if you want to as well. Next ingredient is going to be heavy whipping cream. Then we have your sweetener of choice. I am going with sucralose, vanilla extract, and also Greek yogurt. I just forgot to take a shot of that. Getting into the recipe itself, you are going to need 2 different mixing bowls, obviously because there's 2 different layers, and you're going to want to keep them separate as you build the layers up. But the first layer we're creating here is going to be like the chocolatey oats layer, and I'm starting off this layer by adding in 60 grams of oats. Keep in mind that this recipe is supposed to make 2 servings, so you could do the math on how much to make, but if you're making a full week of breakfast, you'll multiply these ingredients by 3.5. And speaking of ingredients, I just added in 80 grams of the milk. I'm then going to throw in a splash of the vanilla extract measuring 5 grams. Next is fat-free Greek yogurt, which I will be adding 170 grams. This, as well as the protein powder, are the only ingredients that are in both layers of this. With those 2 as high as protein as they are, that just goes to show you that this is not lacking in protein whatsoever. And speaking of the protein powder, I'm going to add that in now, and I'm adding in the chocolate flavor of protein powder, measuring this out to 45 grams. And obviously, you could just customize it however you'd like. If you want to have the vanilla in the oats layer and the chocolate in the whipped layer, I'm sure it'd be just as tasty. Or if you just did 2 completely different flavors, whatever you add to this, I'm sure it's going to be good. Now I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick mix, with the main thing being just making sure that that protein powder is dissolved in with the Greek yogurt and the milk. Will allow it to soak in with the oats and also be evenly mixed for when you actually consume it. You'll notice though that by the time you build this together, you start to layer, you will see how much more thick it will be in just a short period of time, such as 15 to 20 minutes. That is actually a relatively unknown fact, that when you're making overnight oats, it really only takes like 15 to 20 minutes for the overnight oats to be ready. They don't necessarily have to sit overnight. If you did have to make this in the morning in a pinch and wanted to eat it right away, keep in mind what I mentioned. And here we go, this is the consistency that you're going to look for once it's done mixing. It is pretty loose right now, but like I said, it's going to get thick in just no time. Now time to take out that second mixing bowl like I mentioned and make the whipped cream layer. Well, it's not exactly whipped cream, but that's kind of what I call it, and that's the best name I could think of for it. There is whipped cream in there though. Speaking of whipped cream, I'm going to go ahead and add the heavy whipping cream, adding in 45 grams of that. I know this is an extremely high calorie dense food. It's not very often that you do see me add this to my recipes, but when I do, it's going to be in a very low amount, and by doing so, it really makes a difference in curing your cravings. Really not going to add very many calories, but the extra flavor will be worth it. For now, I'm just going to add in 1 gram of the sucralose into the heavy whipping cream. It's now time to go ahead and take out that electric mixer and beat this heavy whipping cream for 3 to 5 minutes until it turned into whipped cream, and you're going to want to be beating this on the highest possible speed. I suppose you could do this by hand if you really want to, but it's going to be an insane wrist workout for you. It might not be worth it, but you could be the judge of that. Said though, you will know this is ready when you see that it has the whipped cream texture. This is what it looks like once I'm done beating it. There is so little whipping cream in there that it's hard to even tell that it's at the bottom. It kind of just looks like some residue that's in there. You definitely can see that it's not a liquid anymore, and you can see the whipped cream texture that's all built up over the sides. Now go ahead and add in the rest of the ingredients, starting out with another 170 grams of the fat-free Greek yogurt. Then you could go ahead and add in 30 grams of the vanilla protein powder, or whatever flavor you're going to use for this layer. We're now complete adding in all the ingredients, and you could turn back to the electric mixer to go ahead and beat this one final time before we put this dish together. This is the final texture of the whipped cream layer once you're done beating it. Not exactly whipped cream, but close enough for an anabolic recipe. Now ready to go ahead and put this together. You could see exactly what I was talking about earlier with the oats layer already starting to thicken up. When you're putting these overnight oats together, it might be best if you have like a wide mouth mason jar or some sort of skinny dish like this. Mine is a little too wide in my opinion for the aesthetic look, so it kind of came out a little bit messy. The only thing that aesthetics really ruin, unfortunately, is the thumbnail quality. It is supposed to be a 5-layer overnight oats, but you could do less or even more layers depending on what size container you're putting it in or however many layers you want to add. In between each layer that I add, I go ahead and give the jar a shake, as I just did right there, just so that the layer flattens out a little bit. If that doesn't do the trick for you, you could kind of spread it around with the spoon, but you don't want to mix it too much as you want the aesthetic look with the extra layers added in. Here we go, this is what the end product is looking like. Like I said, a little bit sloppy, but you can still clearly see the layers of the chocolate and the vanilla. Fortunately, this is 2 servings worth, so when I divide it up, it is going to be sloppy anyway. Can't complain about that because presentation and sloppiness doesn't affect the macros. There it is, the buzzword that everybody loves. Talk about the macros for this recipe. For 1 serving, which is going to be half of the ingredients that I added today, it's going to have 50 grams of protein, 44 grams of carbs, 12 grams of fat, for a total of 405 calories in total. Macros are extremely solid overall for a breakfast with a high protein, adequate amount of carbs and fat to fuel your day. Those grams of fat are coming from the heavy whipping cream anyway, so if you didn't have it, this would be like a fatless meal. Most people, that isn't necessarily healthy anyway, so adding that heavy whipping cream in there, let's make it healthier after all when you take in consideration that it's consumed with other macros. That's just an excuse to use an ingredient that's high in fat, we'll never know. I know this breakfast is delicious, and I think it's a great way for pretty much anybody to get their day started. If you have any questions though on anything about this recipe, regarding the macros, substitutions, how it's made, or anything like that, comment them down below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. But if you did find this recipe tutorial both helpful and delicious, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the growth of the channel. To that as well, I would also like to give you a thank you of helping me reach the milestone of 500 subscribers on the Anabolic Outpost. First milestone I have here on YouTube that I am somewhat proud of. Able to reach that goal in just 4 months makes me much more excited for the future of this channel. Thank you to everybody that has subscribed so far. Also, thank you if you have watched this video, and I will see you in the next one.